All right, we are diving right into one of the most critical conversations of our time, AI ethics. And look, this isn't just about pointing out all the potential dangers. It's really about figuring out the principles we need to build a better future with this technology. This really is the question, isn't it? As these incredibly powerful systems become a bigger and bigger part of our daily lives, we've got to ask, is the intelligence we're creating actually fair? Is it just? And this slide, wow, it just perfectly captures that core tension. It's like two sides of the same coin, right? On one hand, you have the promise of AI, efficiency, innovation, incredible progress. But then you flip it over, and there's the peril, the risk of amplifying our worst biases, creating more inequality, and having these systems make decisions in ways that are totally opaque to us. So, first up, let's really dig into this idea of AI as a double-edged sword. We need to set the stage for the ethical challenges we're going to explore. Okay, now we're getting to the real heart of the matter. Because if we want to build ethical AI, we first have to understand the four major traps we can so easily fall into. All right, first up is the big one, the one you hear about all the time, algorithmic bias. And it's super important to get this right. This isn't about AI being intentionally evil or malicious. Nope. It's all about systems learning from and then just amplifying the biases that are already out there in our society, hidden deep inside the data we feed them. And here's a classic real-world example of how that works. Imagine an AI hiring tool. You train it on decades of company data, and in that data, men held most of the senior jobs. Well, the AI is just going to logically conclude that being male is a key ingredient for success. It has no idea it's perpetuating a historical bias. It's just seeing a pattern and running with it. And this next one is even more subtle, kind of sneaky actually. An AI loan model isn't explicitly told, hey, discriminate based on income. But it might learn that certain zip codes, which are often tied to lower income or minority areas, have historically had fewer loan approvals. So what does it do? It uses the zip code as a stand-in, a proxy for discrimination. The result? The exact same unfair outcome. Okay, trap number 2 is the whole problem of opacity, or what everyone calls black box models. Just think about it. You have an AI system making huge, life-altering decisions, but its internal logic is so ridiculously complex that even the people who built it can't fully explain how it got to a specific answer. I mean, that's the massive challenge we're up against. So what's the big deal? Well, the consequence is a complete and total breakdown of trust. I mean, imagine your loan application gets rejected, and when you ask why, the only answer you get is, because the algorithm said so. You've got no way to fight it, no way to appeal, you're just left with zero faith in the system. All right, our third trap, the privacy challenge. Here's the thing about AI, it's absolutely data hungry. To learn, to get better, to make those accurate predictions, it needs to gobble up vast amounts of information. And a lot of the time, that's our personal information. This creates this fundamental push and pull between building powerful AI and, protecting our basic right to privacy. And believe me, the stakes here could not be higher. We're not just talking about getting targeted ads for shoes you looked at once. Think about healthcare. An AI could be analyzing incredibly sensitive patient records to predict diseases. A data breach in that scenario isn't just an inconvenience, it's an absolute catastrophe. And that's exactly why regulations like GDPR are so crucial. And that brings us to our final trap, the accountability gap. Look, if a simple tool, like a hammer, breaks and causes a problem, we generally know who to blame. But when a fully autonomous AI system causes real harm, who's responsible? Is it the user? The developer? The company? This is a massive and, frankly, still unanswered legal and ethical question. This self-driving car example makes it crystal clear. If it causes an accident, who's on the hook? The developer who wrote the code, the car manufacturer that built it, or the operator who's just sitting in the driver's seat? See? Without a clear answer, there's no way to guarantee justice or even learn how to prevent it from happening again. Okay, so we've laid out all the perils, all the traps. But just pointing out problems is the easy part, right? The real challenge is building the solutions. So let's pivot and talk about the core principles we absolutely need if we're going to build AI that we can actually trust. So to get through all these challenges, the best organizations are building on a solid foundation of a few key principles. First up, fairness. That means actively fighting against all those biases we just talked about. Second, trustworthiness, making sure the AI is reliable and does what we expect it to do, consistently. Third is privacy, making data protection in from the very start. And finally, a big one, responsibility. This is the fundamental promise that these incredibly powerful tools have to be used to benefit everyone in society. But here's the thing. Principles are great, but they're pretty meaningless if they're just words on a page. So the big question is, how do we go from theory to actual practice? Let's get into the concrete steps for really putting AI ethics to work. And what's crucial to understand is that ethics isn't just a vague feeling. It requires a plan. This 5-step framework is basically a roadmap. You start with bias mitigation. That means using more diverse and better data. Then you move to transparency by using explainable AI models. Step 3 is protecting privacy with things like encryption and access controls. 4 is establishing clear accountability so everyone knows who is responsible for what. And finally, number 5, you have to have regular, continuous monitoring, because this kind of work is never, ever done. Let's zoom in on that transparency step for a second. This slide really lays it out perfectly, the problem versus the solution. We need to move away from those opaque, hard-to-trust black box models and move towards what's known as explainable AI, or XAI. These are systems literally designed to tell you why they made a certain decision. And that right there is the bedrock for building user trust. But even with the best data in the world and these awesome explainable models, we have to remember a fundamental truth. AI systems are not perfect. They're not infallible. They can and they will still make mistakes and reinforce bias, no matter how good our intentions might be. And this is where a really critical, practical solution comes into play. The human in the loop, or HITL. Now, this isn't about getting rid of the AI or replacing it. It's about partnering with it. It means designing systems where a human expert always has the final say. They're there to review, to correct, and to provide that layer of common sense oversight that machines just don't have. And the benefits of this are huge. Think about it. A person working in HR can spot a subtle, nuanced bias in a pile of AI-screened resumes that the machine completely missed. That human oversight immediately improves trust, it clarifies accountability, because now we know who made the final call, and most importantly, it makes sure the incredible efficiency of the AI is always aligned with our human values. Okay, so for our last section, let's zoom out and talk about the big picture. How do we take all these great practices and build them into the very DNA of our organizations to make sure we have accountability for the long haul? The answer really comes down to something called AI governance. Think of these as the formal pillars that hold up the entire structure of ethical AI. We're talking about things like internal ethics committees that review the impact of AI projects, regular bias audits and tests that are specifically designed to hunt for discrimination, strict compliance with data protection laws like GDPR, and even creating transparency reports for the public so people can see how your algorithms work. This is how you make accountability a real part of the culture, not just an afterthought. So in the end, we kind of circle right back to where we started. AI isn't some magical external force that's just happening to us. It's a mirror. It reflects the data we feed it, the priorities we set, and the values, good and bad, that we choose to build into it. So the ultimate question isn't really, what will the AI do? The real question is, what kind of future are we, consciously or unconsciously, choosing to create with it, right here, right now?